Let's talk about unconditional self acceptance, which is about seeing yourself as valuable regardless of your failures or successes. It's about separating who you are from the results of your actions. Welcome to Glow Getter Guru. I'm your host, Alley Cat, mindset coach, podcaster, singer songwriter, professional daydreamer, and most of all, lover of all things personal development for women. I'm super excited to have you here, whether you're new or returning. Unconditional self acceptance. That's what we're talking about today. It's very common and unfortunately normalized in our society for people to tie their self worth to achievements, mistakes, or the way others perceive us. I mean, every reality TV show, like when they're arguing, the insults are always like, well, you drive this type of car, or your business is a flop, or whatever it is. They mostly use external factors as insults. That is why today I'm here to tell you that no amount of external validation or failure changes your fundamental value as a person. Okay, so that's what we're unpacking today. It's truly sad and unfortunate that we've been conditioned to rate ourselves based on our performance, appearance, intelligence, mainly our achievements, which are okay to celebrate when we have those things come up, but we shouldn't be telling ourselves things like, I'm a good person because I succeeded, or I'm a failure because I made a mistake, or I'm not smart because I don't make this amount of money, or I didn't think of this idea. This kind of thinking is extremely dangerous and detrimental because it makes our self worth conditional. If we base our value on factors that are fluctuating, we'll always be on an emotional roller coaster. So one day we'll feel amazing, and the next we'll just be feeling completely inadequate. And, that's not something we want. And the truth is, no single success or failure defines you. So that's very important to know. Success or failure doesn't define you. So you are not your job title, you're not your relationship status. So let's stop with the destructive criticism of ourselves and even take it a step further and just stop all destructive criticism of others as well. For example, I was in the grocery store shopping and I bought the Angel Reese, like Reese's Puff cereal. And then when I went to check out, there was a cashier, obviously. Well, not obviously, because these stores want to make us self checkout everywhere. But anyway, there was a young Black teenager who saw the box, like when I was checking out, and she said, "Ew, why would they put her on the box?" I said, "Well, that's what athletes used to do. Like back in the 90s, they'd be on all the cereal boxes." And then she proceeded to talk about how they chose an ugly picture. She started showing the other cashier, like, "Look at this. Why would they put her on the box? She looks so ugly." And my response was like, she probably approved that picture, so she's probably happy with it. And, they both were just saying negative things about how she looks. And honestly, it made me uncomfortable. And I didn't participate in that negativity, but it did make me feel bad for them. Honestly, because, they're teenagers. This is probably their first job. And I know teenagers can be so mean because of that whole high school environment. And I felt bad because their first reaction was to say negative things, when in reality, like Angel Reese is young, successful, beautiful, she's creating something with her life. And it's meant to be, you know, inspiring to others that see that, or that may be following the same path as her. And that just did not connect with these two teenage girls at all. And so my next thought was, wow, like they must be so mean to themselves as well. And I just hate that for them. Like, let's just stop criticizing. It just puts unnecessary negativity into your space and into the space of people around you. And it's also just giving you a bad habit of like making your default mindset negative. And it's like near impossible to live a happy life if your default setting is negative. So let's stop attacking others and let's stop attacking ourselves. So if we stop rating ourselves, what should we do instead? The answer is simple but powerful. You look at the outcomes of your actions, not your worth as a person. So, for example, instead of saying I'm a failure because I didn't get that job, say that interview didn't go as well as I'd hoped. What can I learn from it? Or what are some of the things that I did in the interview that I probably shouldn't do next time? Like evaluating what you did and not yourself as like who you are. Another example is, instead of saying I'm not good enough because my relationship ended, like I know like many women when they go through divorce, I know that they feel like they failed at their marriage. But instead of saying, I'm not good enough because my relationship ended, say that relationship didn't work out, but what can I do differently in the future to create a healthier connection? Or how can I look for someone that makes healthy connections with me? Things like that. You see the difference? The first approach attacks your identity, while the second focuses on growth and learning. When we separate our self worth from our actions, we create space for improvement without damaging our self esteem or revisiting the past versions of ourselves and who we used to be, because those people, those past versions of ourselves, they don't exist anymore. But yet, when we go through certain things, we like to revisit them over and over again and just think to ourselves, like, oh, I've always been this type of person, or I've always been a failure, I've always been, blah, 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 blah. We are trying to leave them in the past and grow and move forward and be better. And part of that is accepting where we are and who we are in the present moment. So, this moment in time, and acknowledging and forgiving that past version of ourselves and just keep it pushing from there. Okay. Let go of the should have, could have, would have's and recognize when you're thinking of those things and put a stop to it. We're recognizing and we're saying that we're not perfect and that's okay. And also that being accepting of ourselves also means that we're recognizing the duality inside of us that may conflict with the idea of what we think we're supposed to be when we're criticizing ourselves. So everything about our existence is multi-dimensional as humans. We need to accept that we can get things right and make mistakes. We can be both kind and aggressive, playful and serious, smart and ignorant. We can exhibit confidence in some areas and still experience insecurity in other areas. We cannot hide from the ugly parts of ourselves. I personally went through a phase where I questioned myself about when I started putting up boundaries because I was worried that if I put boundaries up, I wouldn't be a caring person. And I want to be a caring person, but at that time, I also recognized, like, sometimes if someone asks me to do something and I am able to do it, that doesn't necessarily mean it's easy for me to do or that I want to do it. And sometimes it meant jumping through hoops. Sometimes to me, it just wasn't necessary to be there for that person or people or whatever the situation was. And you can kind of lose yourself in taking care of others. So I struggled with like selfish thoughts, like, oh, I want to say no to this, but I have to say yes. Otherwise, they're going to think I don't care about them or I don't love them. And I refused to let the selfish part of myself come through. And honestly, it just made me so miserable sometimes because, like I said, I just felt like I had to do those things, or maybe they wouldn't love me anymore. They wouldn't talk to me anymore, spend time with me, or they would be mad at me. But once I started to accept that I can care about people and be selfless, but also at the same time, I can be selfish and I can embrace both parts when appropriate, I felt much more in control of my life. I felt happier. Nobody died. Sometimes people were mad, but that's fine. And other times people understood that, I couldn't help them, or at the time that wasn't what I wanted to do. Whatever the reason was, it was all fine. So I still had moments where I could have given, but I accepted that also me not wanting to do something is a good enough reason as well. So once I accepted that about myself and I started being okay with being selfish, and I realized, like, wow, being selfish is actually fun sometimes because I get to focus on myself and enjoy myself and not stress out, and my mind gets to be more clear, and a bunch of other things. I could go on and on and on and on and on. So I felt much better. Over the years, I strengthened that muscle. And once I got confident in that balance, because I accepted the care part of me and the selfish part of me, it just felt, I don't know the word to say. It just felt balanced. It felt good. It felt great. I don't really struggle with that anymore. I just, sometimes I'll go above and beyond if I feel like the person's deserving, or whatever the reason, how it could just depend on how I feel waking up that day. But I've accepted the selfish part of myself and the part that is allowed to care for other people. And I'm okay with it. Sometimes it tips on both sides of the scale, and that's okay. I love that about myself. I love that for me. So, obviously it's always a work in progress. So I do still have other areas also that I'm working on where I criticize myself, but then I am stopping myself from continuing the negative thoughts. So the other area is finding a balance as a woman in like a career track. I work in IT. I'm an analyst as my 9 to 5. And I am very good at my job and I continuously grow and I continuously learn and I know what my strengths are and my skill set. So, what I had been experimenting with, which is like advocating for myself, which is also kind of new at like a current job for me. Like I've always been okay to advocate for myself if I'm negotiating a new job for the first time, like switching companies to companies, but I never had to advocate for myself within the company that I'm at and that I actually want to stay at. So those were some firsts for me. So I had a lot of trouble with self-criticism when it came to being humble. Cause sit down, be humble, And like what it's for me, I struggled with finding the balance of I want to show humility, but also I'm confident in my skill set and my value, and I need to advocate for that. And also trying to like overthink it and say, okay, like you can be confident, but don't go into arrogant. Like on a scale from humble to arrogant, you want to be in the middle at confidence because humbleness is kind of like having a low self esteem, a low idea of your self worth. Okay. Like, I know we say, oh, be humble. We just say it so loosely. Do we even realize what we're telling people to do? Like, calm down. You need to lower your self esteem. Like, imagine instead of saying, be humble, say lower your self esteem. Like, how fucking stupid does that sound? It sounds really stupid, but I get it. Like, I get when people say be humble, kind of like what it means. But to me, I interpret that as when you're telling someone to be humble, you're telling them to be less arrogant. I think that's how I interpret it, like I said. But it's okay. It's 100% okay for someone to be confident. And some people are more sensitive. They think confidence is arrogance. And as you can see, me going down this wormhole, this is the struggle that I was having with the self criticism because I would see something wrong and speak up for it. For example, if a lot of people are working late hours and then I start feeling pressure, I would advocate for the team. Like, we need to like be setting expectations around work-life balance, and some people on the team were not feeling appreciated, and I'll tell someone like, oh, I think you should give more compliments because people never hear compliments from you, and I think it really gets to them. And basically, I would be okay 100% of the time advocating for like other people as a whole, like strongly and aggressively with logic and facts and push for other people. But when it came to doing it for myself, that's where I had self criticism because I would tell myself, be humble, don't show too much confidence. That might be bad in the workplace. And it's, when you're an extroverted woman like me, and some people have said in the past I have an aggressive personality, which is fine because, I am the type of person when I get excited, I get louder. So some people will think I'm yelling when I'm just literally excited or worked up or passionate or whatever the fucking case is. But yeah, I just struggled with that. Like how humble to be, how confident to be. But I just know for a fact I'm not going to go into arrogance. So yeah, it's just been a struggle of you didn't speak up enough or you should have spoken up more, that kind of self criticism, instead of I accept myself where I am and I'm still navigating when I want to behave in a way that comes off as more humble and when it's appropriate to speak up about my value and skill sets and to advocate for myself. So when I start saying, oh, you should have said this, you should have said that, I literally just stop myself and I just say, like, you're learning through this and you're navigating through this. Next time, maybe try to push a little harder and see how that's received. Maybe pull back in this area and see how that's received, like an experiment instead of beating myself up for telling myself like you're not the type of person to speak up or they're never going to listen to you, they don't take you serious, or I don't even take myself serious, or I should be doing better, or I'm good at 90% of my job but if here in this 10% I need to get that up before I can even start speaking. Those are the type of things I was telling myself. But you know what? Like over the last few months, I've been learning that I am accepting more of my confident side because there are times when it's appropriate to advocate for yourself and to be confident, especially after like the last few years, I've been reading the Women in Workplace, like McKinsey and Company report. And after I see the statistics and the numbers and the equity for women versus men, and I am a minority woman. So of course, like those numbers apply to me. And a lot of the time through my journey, I did feel like I was falling into those statistics. So self criticism was also stopping me from advocating for something that is actually bigger than me because when I'm treated fairly and I'm able to speak up and I'm able to be better at my career. And as I get to, climb the ladder and move up, I can put other women in those types of positions or mentor other women or share with them how I navigated and what I learned. So that's why I stop with the self-criticism when it comes to like humbleness and confidence. And I'm just trying to fully accept that I'm more on the confident side than the humble side when I know what I'm talking about. And I'm okay with that. And I love that for me. Who's going to advocate for me if not me? I don't have a sponsor or a mentor right now. So who's going to advocate for me in the meantime? It's going to be myself. And I want that for you too. So that's just what I wanted to share with you about how I'm still going through this self-criticism as well. This self-criticism and training my brain to go to the positive and to stop myself so that I can just default to it's my actions that I need to evaluate and not me. Like my worth is still on 100 no matter what. So that's important. I'm accepting that about myself, and I want self acceptance for you. I want you to remind yourself daily that you are valuable simply because you exist. I want you to catch yourself when tying your worth to success or failure. Pause and exchange it to take yourself as a person out of the equation of worth and focus on what to do next if your outcome wasn't ideal based on the way you maneuvered in a situation with your actions. I want you to focus on growth. Shift your mindset from I am a failure to this is a learning opportunity, or it didn't work out this time. Let me evaluate what happened and see what I can change to see if the outcome changes the next time. We're scientists now, okay? Scientists, babes. You are abundant AF. I want you to always practice self compassion. Treat yourself the way you treat a friend. Actually, treat yourself the way you'd like a friend to treat you if you were talking to them about this. I'm just going to say, with kindness and understanding. That's the friend I'm talking about, with kindness and understanding. And I want you to remind yourself that you are human like everyone else. And we already talked about it. We're multidimensional. We're not just like one lane. If you're a kind person, you can also be mean sometimes, That's all of us. I know we live in a society where someone does one thing one time and they are almost branded that way forever. But people learn and people grow, people change, people are good and evil. It's we're so many things at once. So self acceptance doesn't mean that you're accepting your situation or accepting your current behaviors. That's why I'm saying it's just about your worth as a person and the way that you feel, like emotions and your thought processes and how you think through things. That's the part that you're accepting about yourself and knowing that it's valuable. All of those things about you are valuable. Being an emotional person is valuable. Being a person who is not as emotional is valuable. Being a person who speaks up is valuable. Being a person who is more reserved and observant sometimes is valuable. So accept yourself for those things. But if there are areas that you want to grow in and get better in, so if you're more reserved naturally and observant, you can accept that about yourself. But you can also accept that sometimes you will have actions that require you to speak up in order to grow or get to where you want to go. So you can accept that you're an observed person and still want to be more outspoken. That's not tied to your worth. That's just tied to your actions and where you want to go. So you can work towards growth and improvement without beating yourself up and start rating your outcomes, not yourself. I've said that multiple times, but I just really, really, really want you to get that. You're rating your outcomes and your actions, not yourself as a person. So open the door to self-improvement without self-destruction and cleanse yourself from negativity, replace it with something better, empowering and hopeful, and stop the criticism of others as well. Just let's try to stay positive, focused, or neutral. If you can't get to positive, go neutral. Okay, it is what it is. Sometimes you're in a situation and it didn't go the way you wanted it to go. Instead of going straight to the negative of all the things you can beat yourself up about, just say it is what it is. That's not too positive. That's not fake positivity that you feel like you're giving yourself, but it's not negative. You're not beating yourself up. Don't trip over what you can't control this in that moment and just stay neutral sometimes. If you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. That is like a very old saying, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. And I love that because you don't have to jump to positive, but please just stay away from the negative. So I hope you found this episode helpful. Be sure to share it with someone who might need it as well, and start practicing your shift today. Stop criticizing. Let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Until next time, take care of yourself and be kind to yourself. I'll see you next week.